Hello, everyone. I am Hannah, evolutionary astrologer, and today I want to speak to you about something that I consider to be a very important theme and very relevant, especially if you are just in the beginning of your astrological studies. Maybe you're just, starting to understand your natal chart, or maybe you are an astrology enthusiast, or maybe you've been exposed to astrology, but a type of astrology that is very deterministic or very fatalistic, the one that says, this is who you are, this is your chart, and there's no changing, and you're just going to have to live with it. So, if that's the case for you, and this is actually a question that I get all the time, which is, do I have a bad chart? The truth is no. There is actually no such thing. The thing is, astrology is becoming more mainstream, right? It's becoming more and more a part of our lives and lexicon and understanding of things and how we talk to each other. So it becomes also easier to fall into simplified social media styles, stories, and narratives. For example, oh, he's a Gemini, he must be two-faced, or you have a Saturn square in your chart. Good luck. Oh, your chart is full of squares and oppositions. You're doomed, right? There's so many. And it takes us back to the question, is my chart bad? Or even worse, am I bad because of my chart? So let's get one thing straight. There is no such thing as a bad astrology chart, not even one. Your natal chart is not your sentence. Your natal chart is your soul map. I mean, it's a precious, sacred picture of, it's a photograph of the sky, of the heavens at the moment of your birth. It's such a deep, eh, rich and symbolic, really a blueprint of who you are, your gifts, your wounds, your challenges, your lessons, your potentials. And really, it's showing that thread of your existence. How beautiful and sacred and magical and precious is that? So, to simplify this, to squeeze all of it into, is my chart bad because I have this Saturn opposite Pluto, for example? It's such a disservice and it can be quite damaging. But let's backtrack here. Why do we ask this question? You know, there can be many reasons, and some of them is going back to social media. Maybe you've seen a meme that made fun of your sun sign, or maybe you've heard that your Saturn placement or your Mars placement is not good or it's harsh, right? Maybe you're starting to get to know your chart a little bit more, and then you go on the internet, you Google your chart, you Google your aspects, and you get back, something that's not good. It's saying it's not good, it's challenging, you're doomed. And then you think, okay, maybe I'm just going to be stuck with this forever. So that's understandable. That is understandable, especially if you haven't yet had the opportunity to study and understand astrology in depth. I have. So let me offer you another perspective. Every single chart has challenges. Every single chart has opportunities. And most importantly, every chart has purposes. Every chart, you are a soul, so there is a soul behind the chart. And this is one of the amazing gifts of evolutionary astrology, because it says that your personal astrology, your natal chart, is not just showing your personality. It's a tool to really understand yourself from a soul level and to understand the thread of your existence. So every placement, even the ones that we call the hard ones or the most challenging ones, they are actually representing an invitation. And we all have them. It's not like there's one chart that is completely harmonious and there's no challenges, there's no learning opportunities, and other charts are doomed and bad and just lots of bad stuff. This doesn't exist because every chart is a combination of many factors, and every configuration in your chart is going to invite you to grow, to heal, to access deeper parts of yourself, to become more conscious, to become more self-aware, to ultimately reach your potential, to come here to do what you came here to do. And as we are moving, closer to our potential and moving onward in our on our path, there's going to be things that we're going to have to release, the things that we know that no longer serve us, things that maybe we picked up along the way, maybe things that served us at some point, but it doesn't anymore, things that we may be outgrown. So instead of asking, why is this in my chart? I think a better question, a good way to reframe this question is, what is my soul trying to learn through this? If I have a Venus Pluto, for example, Venus conjunct Pluto, does that mean that love will always, Venus is love and Pluto brings, that transformation quality? Does that mean that I'm doomed and I'll never have a good, fruitful relationship? Of course, it doesn't say that, but it does show that from a soul level, your soul is here to transform, to deeply transform how you show up in your relationships and the kind of partner you're choosing and the kind of relationship you're in and your self-worth. So that's a very different story and a very different intention than simply saying, oh, you have a Venus-Pluto conjunction, your love life will always be difficult. Another example, a Mars Saturn square or opposition. Does this mean that I'm always going to be fighting? There are always going to be, you know, is this constant uh, um, um, power struggles? Or is it teaching me to build resilience, to build strength, to build discipline, to understand, you know, when do I need to fight? When do I need to stand up for myself versus when do I need to let myself be guided and learn from, um, who's in charge, my Saturn, my teacher, my mentor, um, the authority, my boss, the authority figure in my life. So you see how it can be, these configurations. Um, there's certain things that we can say about them that can end up being very damaging, and it makes us feel like we have no choice, right? So the myth of the perfect chart, spoiler alert, no one has one. No one has one. Every single chart includes friction, tension, karma, potential blind spots, challenges, but also the gifts, the intentions, the purposes, your mission from a soul level, what you came here to do, what you came here to give, your own service to humanity. That sometimes, it can come in very small ways, but as impactful. So the path, everything is in our chart is, especially when you start to really work with your chart, you understand your chart, and you see all the dots connecting and how there is growth and there is gifts that lie together. So here's a real secret beyond the memes, beyond the columns, the sun sign columns, even beyond astrological consultations, because the astrological consultations, your readings, a lot of it, the intermediate person is the astrologer, right? So the truth, that I think the real secret, not the truth, but the real secret here is that your conscious choice is such a powerful, powerful force. It's in many ways, it can even be a little lazy to think that things are fated. You're fated to your chart. There's no changing anything. If you're meant to have terrible relationships, you'll have terrible relationships, and that's it. If you're here to never make money, you're never going to make money. There's even a certain level of laziness there, right? Because you just say, well, that's my fate. I can't do anything about it. So I just have to, you know, accept, and I'm doomed and live a terrible life of poverty and, no love. So does that really work? Does that empower you? Does that make you feel good? I don't think so. So conscious choice, our free will, our capacity, to me, the most important astrological placement you'll ever have is you, your consciousness, your free will, and how you respond to what happens in your life and how you choose to express and to work with your chart and the energies in your chart. So astrology influences are actually neutral. The way we decide to use this energy, either constructively or destructively, that's the key here. That's the most important thing. So to think of your chart as a prison, it's wrong, and it doesn't serve you, because ultimately astrology is a tool to help us live better lives, lives with more understanding, lives with more clarity, lives where we understand who we are and what our path is about and what we're here to grow into and to change and to release and to give. So it's helping us to navigate life, not putting our, putting us in a box and saying, you're in a prison, just learn how to live with it. So the chart is your path, not your prison. Your chart doesn't define your fate. The chart doesn't dictate your destiny. You do. So if you ever wondered if your chart is bad, I would love to invite you to consider this instead. What is my chart helping me become? What am I learning to embody more deeply? And the parts that have been hard, the parts where there's been pain and struggle and difficulty, and we all have those. No chart comes without those factors. So, how can I turn this pain into purpose, into service to others? So those are some really good questions to ponder upon. And so again, astrology is not here to box you in. It's here to open doors, you know? And one last thing that I want to say, I haven't seen your chart, maybe I have, but one thing that all charts have in common is that, yes, we are in a process of learning, right? In a process of exploration, in a process of expansion and making mistakes and learning and triumphs and victories, and then um, falling. Like we're all in this process, each and every one of us in our individual path and your unique path. But one thing that we all have in common, it's a truth to every single chart, is that you are whole and you are worthy and you're always evolving. There's always going to be something else to learn. There's always going to be one new step to climb. And you are both a masterpiece and you are also a work in progress. And that's the paradox. And it's a beautiful paradox. And you are this living expression of growth and beauty and becoming, always becoming more. And our charts help us to open these doors more easily and with more purpose and with more clarity and more understanding. So, if you ever wondered if your chart is bad, no, it is not. And I hope this is helpful. If you like this video, make sure to like it, give me the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.